Hey guys, yes, it's different. Life with Lizzie is different, but this is a special edition of the Life with Lizzie right here at Believe Radio. And I'm just going to go in and put a disclaimer out there. I'm glad that you joined me, but I'm a little emotional already. I'm just going to put it out there because you guys know that this conversation is near and dear to my heart. Um, I am the CEO of the Duchess Project. And it is that time of year where we shower our mothers and we say Happy Mother's Day and we shower our sisters and our friends. But on today, I want to have a conversation about the mothers that are in waiting. I don't want to forget them. I don't want to forget you. If that is you and you're logged in today, I want you to stay right there because I have a gift for you. I have a gift of information, of support, and education for you that you might survive this Mother's Day, right? So, as you know, the Duchess Project, we're designed to provide awareness, encouragement, and support and education to women and those that support them that struggle with infertility. So, you may be asking, Liz, why the discussion and why now? Well, why not now? There's always a time to discuss reproductive health and the things that happen and the things that are happening and how do I get support and what do I do? You may be finding out just this week that you may need some assistance. You may be in the middle of your IVF treatments. Got you. And you may say, maybe I need to try adoption or something else. Got you too. Nevertheless, the Duchess Project is here. I am just excited that you'll be able to take away the strength. You'll be able to walk away with support. You'll be able to walk away this time with more than you logged in with. So, with that being said, I want to introduce to you my executive assistant. She is the one that makes sure that the Duchess Project is back on its skates. Can I introduce to you guys my executive administrator, Miss Erica Nicole? Welcome to this conversation, ma'am.
Hello and
How
welcome.
are you?
I am great. Not another Mother's Day. I'm excited to talk about it and to foster this conversation tonight. While I may never have experienced it, but with our work and what we do at the Duchess Project, we see it all the time.
Right.
So I'm ready to dive into the conversation. I brought some friends, though.
I'm so glad you brought some friends, right?
I did.
You have brought some amazing friends, and I can't wait to introduce your friends to all of our friends. So I'm going to step aside and allow you to introduce them. But guess what? I have a video that kind of shows us how far we've come with the Duchess Project. But I'm gonna let you introduce.
No, I think we should start with the video.
You want to start there? Okay, guys. So listen, I'm so excited. It took me down memory lane. I want you guys to watch. I think we were before our time doing this with the whole IVF in the news. I want to just give a little clips about the Duchess Project. Watch this. Do you remember that?
I remember that
across the United States.
And I'm almost feeling that we need to run that back.
I think so.
We should have done it for Infertility Week, but it's never too late.
It's never too late. It's never too late. I just wanted to remind our viewers about that. That was just like one of those moments at the Duchess Project where I believe we were really getting the word out about a topic that is not, you know, it's not really just me, just my personal experience. Now, don't inbox me, but just my what I see. I don't see a lot of conversations around reproductive health, and especially for Black girls. So I'm ready to have this conversation. I'm going to yield and allow you to introduce our friends.
So I brought two of my sorority sisters or sorors tonight. The first being Dr. Katrina Haslett. She studied at Alabama A&M University. She is a resident of Nevada now, but she takes time with each of her patients. And guess what? She looks like us. So
She's a beauty.
she's a beauty.
Yes.
So she is in the fellow American Congress of OBGYN. So FACOG. Welcome, Dr. Haslett. How are you tonight?
Oh,
Welcome.
hello. Good, good. Good to
Thank
be
you for
here.
joining the conversation. How long have you been studying or practicing medicine?
See, I have been a private practitioner since, let's see, December of 2008. So, what is that? Oh my, 16 years about? Here in Vegas. I've been an OBGYN since 2002. So, about 22 years, 23 years. A
Good.
little bit of time.
You're highly sought after. People look for people who look like them. So and then you're great too. So I know that you stay pretty booked as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to be of service. It's my life calling. It's what I am here put on this earth to do. So I do it
Awesome.
happily.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, thank you. Welcome. I can't wait to dive into this conversation. And my other guest tonight is going to be another soror by the name of Joy Sparrow. She graduated from Winston-Salem University. She has a master's in higher education and policy from UNLV. She is currently working on her PhD, and she currently serves as the director of advocacy at UNLV. She's a lobbyist, and her story garnered the attention of some very powerful people. And I'm going to let her tell you that. But welcome, Joy.
Thank you. Thank you for
Welcome.
having me.
Should I have also said that you're the mother of Peyton? Should I have said that?
Peyton is my baby. And just a small disclaimer, she just walked in the house. So I will have some background noise because I have not seen her all day and she has not seen me all day. So
And it is okay.
I don't apologize for being a mom, but my apologies if she interrupts a little bit.
It is okay. It is okay. Well, I want to say thank each and every last one of you for joining the conversation and your yes. I am so grateful for your yes. That you would come and share your expertise and that you would share your stories about not another Mother's Day. So, with that being said, Erica, could you please, ma'am, guide us in this conversation? I'm going to yield.
Let's dig in. Let's dig in. So obviously, Joy,
Yes.
tell us a little bit. It seems like Joy, you seem to be, and this is just I'm doing this for the viewers, right? While I may know you, you seem to be pretty relatively young. I do know that you've been married. Tell us about the time from the point in which you guys decided, you know what, we're ready for a baby. What was that like for you all?
The moment that we decided we were ready for a baby, that was very early on in marriage. So I went 26 years with all four of my grandparents, and my grandmother actually passed away on Christmas Day of 2019. At that time, my husband and I had only been married for 3 months. So there was this realization of we don't want to prolong having children. We want our children to be able to benefit from being around family, and I just didn't want to wait too long. So we started actively trying to conceive at that time. And then the pandemic happened, right? Because she passed away in 2019. So 2020, the pandemic happens, and I just knew because of all the extra time on our hands, we were going to get pregnant.
Right.
It did not happen that way at all. We had been trying and nothing was going on. But also because it was the pandemic, a situation like mine was not a priority to doctors. And I understand, right? Folks are dying because of a pandemic. So I understand that the girl who can't conceive is not really a big deal to the healthcare system at the time. But because of my age and because of the amount of time, if you see once you're at a certain age, if you're trying for 6 months, then they say go in and seek help. If you're trying for a year, go in and seek help. So because I was in my 30s, because we had been actively trying for 6 months, it was time to go and talk to someone.
And then during that time, did you feel the pressure? Like, everybody's like, oh, you guys are married, especially in our culture, when y'all having a baby, did you feel that pressure?
Absolutely, because of folks' invasive questions and because of their random investment in the personal life of myself and my husband, it did feel it. And it felt.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
very
people ask
intrusive,
very inappropriate and very invasive questions that will make you think they assume they have license and autonomy over the decisions that you make. So because of that, it felt like a lot of pressure. As soon as we got married, folks said, oh, y'all better hurry up and have kids. Nobody ever said hurry up and finish your PhD. They definitely said hurry up and have kids though.
Right.
So yes, pressure from everyone. And it wasn't until I started being more vocal about my story that I began to educate people more on what's appropriate to ask and what's not appropriate to ask.
Right.
And at the end of the day, if it's not your ovaries, it's probably not a question that you should ask.
Right. Can I put a pin there for those that this weekend someone's going to ask that? How could, I don't I love the response. These are not your ovaries. But how can we speak to that? Because I think sometimes not everyone, they don't want to, be offensive, even though they're being offended. It's okay to tell someone, that's really intrusive. That's really not, what I want to do is give individuals, permission and license this weekend to say, hey, and to kind of build that. Because I think for me and for myself, emotional, because you're already emotional. So it's like, hey, wait a minute. Can you kind of speak to that? Is that something that you just did automatically, or was there something that you said, you know what, that's really not your business, and moving forward, I'm not going to let anybody kind of put me in a corner and try to, find out my life timeline?
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't have a diplomatic way of saying it, but I shut people down every single time because I think just because something has been done a certain way does not mean it needs to continue to be done. And for so many years, our grandmothers and our mothers have felt as if, well, I get to ask, which then provides this intersection or this extension of their friends feel like they get to ask. And it's not your business because you never know what someone is dealing with. You could ask me that question, when are you going to have a kid? I remember one day I was so frustrated and I blurted out to an individual, if I could ever get a baby to stick, I'll have one. And I just fell out crying. And I did not sugarcoat it because that's how I felt. It's already difficult as a woman when you feel as if, and my faith leads me, right? So I felt as if what God designed my body to do, it was not doing. Therefore, I do not have time while I'm already grappling with the God that I serve, that I refuse to not serve, right? I'm going to praise him at all times. I refuse to be dealing with that relationship. My marriage was on the table at that point. It got really bad in my household. And then it was a matter of, whose fault is it, right? Is it your fault? Is it my fault? All of that was culminating.
We must have been next door neighbors.
Yeah. We got to the point that I'm sorry, I don't have time for you asking about my uterus and my ovaries. And I noticed that people would stop asking because I was very direct and very blunt and very abrasive in my response, because I have to teach you. If we're going to abide by the saying, teach people how to treat you, well, it doesn't stop at infertility. I get to teach you how to treat me. I get to teach you that that's not okay for you to ask me that.
And those questions are not
okay to ask my husband that either. And I do want to make sure that as I'm telling my story, I do not erase the fact that he navigated this as a Black man as well. He has a story. So you don't get to ask my man that either.
And it's so funny, Joy. We thought of inviting you both, but we are going to do there is a something for Father's Day as well, because they do walk through that journey.
Absolutely a conversation.
With. So that brings me to Dr. Hudson.
Right.
I want you to tell us how it felt, because obviously Joy touched on it. how you wrestled with your faith as you waited. Talk, yeah, let's talk about that.
Um, because I mean, not only do you wrestle with your faith, I wrestle with my faith. I wrestle with my my biological capacity. Like, I mean, as kids, you were bought a Cabbage Patch. You know, you were bought a stroller for a toy. I've been a mom all my life. I mean, under the Christmas tree is baby dolls. You know, remember the Cabbage Patch? It came with a birth certificate. Child, you couldn't tell me I wasn't that baby's mama. You know, so you've been a mother all your life, and you know, like Joy, got married, and you know, I mean, on the way out the church into the hot limousine, y'all come back pregnant. You know, it's like, okay, you know. And then as time goes by, it doesn't happen. So not only am I'm gasping for air, but I'm also saying, okay, God, what is this? Like, out of all the people, me? Like, what is that about? And so, like Joy, I understand that my faith is on the line, and for me, I serve in you know, in our Black church. You know, oh, she's the first lady, she's the pastor's wife, and everything's perfect, and there's this image, you know, that people, that you don't even want, but people put on you, that it has to be perfect, it has to be this, and it has to be that, and you have no idea that behind our closed doors we are struggling. And I understand when Sarah said, "Hey, go lay with Hagar." I said it. I was like, "Why don't we just get a divorce? And why don't you just, you know, why don't you just you?" Because you can see the pain. Because I tell people, this is not just my story. This is our story, right? Mm-hmm. And although when we talk about infertility or fertility issues, you know, the sympathy and all of that goes to the woman, but there's a whole man over here that's still struggling with his feelings, and he's trying to get through it, because they're having the conversations in the barbershops, they're having the conversations at the car shows, you know, they're having these things, and it's like, hey, you know, what's up, guys? And so for me, after, you know, a couple of years, it's like, okay. And then by year 5, and then by year 6, I'm like, what is happening? And I'm like, Joy, I'm refusing to give up on my faith, but I gotta lean in to find out what is really happening. And it took me having a physician like Dr. Haslett that says, okay, let's stop and let's look at what's really going on, because we're just shooting darts.
And what I will say is, you know, and it's funny because Joy is the child of she's a PK. You are the first lady. And a lot of times when it comes to faith, we do this with mental health. And I know that we do this with, you know, you can't just go to the altar, have somebody lay hands on you. And I'm not saying that God isn't a miracle worker.
No.
But at some point, we do have to reach out for professionals. So, Joy, you talked about how
he provided that for us, right? He blessed some to be teachers, some to be preachers, some to be
and some to be doctors.
So you have to remember that God is on time, God. So a lot of these things that we take into our "it's my faith," that's not really from God. That's from our social mores and upbringing. God does, he has a path for you, and it will happen for you if it's supposed to happen for you, when he deems it necessary to happen for you. But we have a long 100-year history of someone else's ideas for what we have, and we have to search them to figure out what is really for us. It's already a difficult journey if that is what you yearn for in your soul and in your heart, right? But God gives us what he gives us, what he intends for us himself. And we have to weed through everybody else's baggage to get there. And that makes the journey so much difficult in so many arenas of our life. And I wish that we could take that weight off of us to begin with. Because when a woman comes to me and says, I can't get pregnant, she already has her path, her feelings, her this and that. She doesn't need everybody else's, right? She doesn't. She just needs to keep that clean path between her partner, and her God. But that's not where we live. That's not how we.
At what point? I know Joy touched on, you know, the scales. And the timelines and age, you know, I imagine it being kind of like a BMI, like, you know what I mean? Like a BMI scale or timeline, right? At what point would you tell a family or, you know, that is trying to conceive and haven't been able to be successful to have the conversation with you?
So for the African American community, the most important thing is not just when you're ready to have children. You should be going, you should have a physician, and I am biased, I'm an OBGYN. So at the very least, you should have a gynecologist that you have been seeing since you were 21 on a regular basis. And that way you already know if you're diabetic, if you're hypertensive, if you have PCOS, if you don't have regular periods, you already have that history of knowing whether or not you have these things that you have to work on. And then if you don't have any of these diagnoses, it's the sixth after technically it's 35 years old. I kind of will put that closer to 30 just because I see more and more people coming in. But less than 35, if you've been trying for 1 year, and that means directed trying. Trying, that means having sex when you are ovulating, not just every day or every weekend or any time of day. Because if a woman is not ovulating, she cannot get pregnant. And you can have sex 100 times in a day, but if you're not ovulating and releasing that egg, then you're not going to get pregnant. So you have to have directed trying for a year under 35 and 6 months over 35. But it's very important to make sure your basic health, nutritionally, right? I know a lot of people like to do different fads. Some people like to go to boot camps and work out too much. Like it's a real balance between working out and eating. You have to know your blood pressures have to be normalized. If you're diabetic, your blood sugars have to be normalized. And all of this impacts whether you're ovulating and you can get pregnant on the woman's side and if you can carry that pregnancy.
Right.
So your health will have an impact through actually having a positive pregnancy test and delivering a healthy baby at term.
Mhm.
So Joy, talk to us. Oh, you want to go ahead?
Yeah. I think before we fast forward, I want to kind of piggyback on my doctor and my faith, right?
Mhm.
Because for me, and I think I think that was an amazing, that's so good, Dr. Hazlitt. But I think God gives us people like you, right? Because sometimes we'll say, oh, in God's timing, but we'll also miss the time if we don't go to the doctor. Because I heard people tell me, oh, in God's timing, but I had no idea that when I got to the doctor was like, listen, if you would have waited any longer, you would have missed your window, right?
Mhm.
So there's a fine line between my faith, because I can believe God for anything, but he gives me doctors, right? And so for me, it was a combination of it for both of them. It was the timing of God, and then it was my faith in God, and then I had a physician that said, you know what, I'm gonna believe this with you, and we're getting ready to we're gonna have a baby. And so I think that's amazing. And that when you get a physician and that you have a physician that first of all hears you, because sometimes we go to physicians and not you, Dr. Hasley, but not everyone is listening to us, right? Sometimes we go and it's just like, because I know I went and they, baby, here, take this little, they gave me some medication for diabetes, some metformin, and I'll see you in 3 months. Good luck. And it was so much more than that.
Mhm.
It was so much more. So when those when these ladies go into the office and they're prescribed medication and it's not working, at what point should they come back and say, you know what, maybe I need to see a specialist?
They should definitely before they leave that doctor's office, if this is a true goal, because a lot of people come in and they say, okay, we'll try it. You should have a follow-up appointment by the time you walk out of that office. If I put somebody on metformin or tell them to follow up, I actually don't do infertility in my office. I try and get everybody's base health together, make sure they have their pap smears and all this and that, and realize if they have normal periods or not normal periods. And then I will send them to the infertility doctor. And I'll tell them, when you go to that infertility doctor, make it a follow-up appointment with me so we can kind of go over what they said so that we can understand together what their plan is. Because sometimes you get lost once you go to the specialist. And then the specialists will have all of these general recommendations, and then there's no follow-up, but only because the person the lady doesn't understand that time is of essence, or what to do first, or maybe they're intimidated to ask questions, I always open the door and say, follow up with me. You can follow up with me within a week, within 2 weeks, within 3 weeks, definitely within 4 weeks of you going to that doctor, so we can at least talk about what the plan is and what they've ordered for you and what does it really mean. But you should usually, when you're diagnosed with any kind of I call them diagnosis, medical problem, you should have a follow-up appointment when you leave, even if it's a 6-month appointment. So I would say within 3 months if you're actively trying.
Follow-ups, guys.
So I have questions. So thank you so much, Dr. Haslett. And I'm happy to hear that, right? That you do the follow, that you offer the follow-up. Because sometimes people are like, here's your referral.
And that's it.
Let me know how it goes, and your appointment's in 6 months. And
they don't always take me up on it, but I offer it.
At least you open the door for
right.
it.
I mean, because it's on at that moment for me, it's like to feel like my GYN and my reproductive special, like I have a team now. You know, I have a team, and someone, when I don't understand it, there's someone that can translate what's happening. What does that mean? Because it's so overwhelming. Because first of all, this is not how I know, Joy, I know for me, this was not how I pictured it.
No.
This wasn't how I pictured it. I wanted to, you know.
So I couldn't imagine spending this much money to have a baby.
This is not what you imagined.
I was not prepared.
So we talked about so Joy, you are definitely by the time you got married, had you received your master's yet?
Yes. Yeah. I was in my doctoral program by the time I got married.
Perfect. So that means that for you, everything else, it seems like you had your house, your husband, all you needed was the picket fence and the 2.5 kids, right? And so I had said this, and you kind of, we chatted about this a little bit offline about how infertility itself doesn't have any socioeconomic status. However, the remedy for it does, right? Can you talk to us about like what you were talking to us about the means for which Blacks and Hispanic women and being able to cure IVF is not that common?
Absolutely. So what I was getting at earlier when we were talking was the fact that infertility disproportionately impacts Black women. I don't say women of color, I say Black women, because when you look at the data, which I spent a couple of years just looking at the data, it disproportionately impacts Black women. However, our clinics don't necessarily look like it disproportionately impacts Black women, which then makes you look at the next thing, which was the affordability of services to support you in your infertility, in your infertility journey. That comes with the layer that 70% of Black and Hispanic women oftentimes cannot afford those services. So price range, when we went to our clinic, and again, it was a lengthy process for us. It was on July 1st of 2021 where I did my HSG exam, which confirmed that my tubes were completely blocked, right? So you're laying on this table and it's like they're shooting dye through your tubes. And if the dye does not move, and I will say Dr. Haslett actually gave me my referral to go to the fertility clinic. I had came to her office. I had done my research. I said, look, doc, this is what I need from you. And she did. She ran through the questions that she needed to ask me. She asked me, were my periods regular? Yes. From the day that I got one in middle school, that girl comes like clockwork. My cycle never surprises me. She has never, it's very consistent. It has been that way since the 8th grade. Also asked me, a series of other questions. And then said, okay, here's your referral. And she did prep me that they're going to do some blood work. They're going to do blood work of your spouse. And then they're going to end it with like an HSG exam. And I think I'm getting that right. HSG, right? And she told me what it was. I do know that you cannot ask somebody, does it hurt? Because pain is different for everybody. But that exam took me, it took me out. Ma'am, it did not feel good. It was worse than a pap smear. It was a very long time because then even the lady who did my said, let me try a little bit more to see if I can. And it was just, the dye was just running out of me. Mm-hmm. But from there, right, that was then July 1st, 2021, where they told me you have a 0% chance of conceiving a child without the supports of infertility or reproductive, care. And then I was told that my only option was IVF, adoption, or surrogacy. To carry my own child, IVF was my only option.
To do it naturally, you have less of a chance if you haven't been able to, and it costs more, but the hormones are kind of wicked. But pregnancy hormones naturally are kind of wicked anyway. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that when you go to an infertility doctor, they do have a reason for what they're doing. It's a cost to it, but usually there's a reason. Try this or this or this or this because of this, that, and the other. The HSG, hysterosalpingogram, is where you shoot the dye in, and sometimes that can blow open your tubes.